So initially, we'll try to find out the link between economy and the environment. So how economy and environment are interlinked. So I have told, no? So many of the things which are required for the economic activities are collected from the environment. I talked about the steel production. So similarly, so you will be requiring a lot of energy resources, and this energy will be collected or maybe actually mostly acquired from the environment itself. So there is a two-way relationship between the economy and the environment. Okay, so economic activities, for any economic activity, probably environmental resources will be the most important one that people look into, and they will be collected. At the same time, we should also, means in fact, we all know that any economic intervention or any economic activity will also have some kind of influence on the environmental quality. So we are talking about global warming today. We are talking about climate change today. So we are saying that we are contributing industrialization, urbanization. These things have been contributing towards global warming or environmental change or climate change. Now, so that basically means, so how are we contributing? We are contributing as a consumer, maybe as a producer. Companies are producing goods and services. So we as consumers, we are also consuming or using these goods and services. In both the processes, okay, so what is happening? So we are contributing to environmental degradation. So we are producing something, as I told you. So there will be waste generated gases will be will be coming out, which might okay contribute towards air pollution. Okay, the land degradation, it might happen, then water contamination. So many things will be there. Okay, of course, one thing is there, the environment itself has some kind of capacity of processing the waste. It has some kind of assimilative capacity. So if the waste dumped into the environment is within the tolerable limit of the environment, there might not be much of a problem out there. uh, Biologically, many of this waste can be processed by the environment itself. But if it crosses or exceeds the assimilative capacity of the environment, so in that case, so the negative effects of all this waste dumping might come into fore, and that creates a lot of issues out there. So here we'll try to have a look at the interaction between economic activities and environmental quality. You see, environment, as I pointed out, no, so many things are provided. These resources are provided, the amenity values are provided. It maintains the air, atmospheric pressure and the temperature. At the same time, it acts as the sink for the produced goods and services as well. So all those things will be there. And in fact, here we try to find out the role of this laws of thermodynamics, which are considered to be kind of scientific law, which can actually describe the relationship between the economy and the environment. Because actually, first law is there, which talks about the kind of energy and matter, these type of things, whatever is available, so that cannot be destroyed. Okay, so something like this. So this might be one of the ways of actually scientifically explaining the relationship between the economic activities and environmental quality. Then we also talk about this market things, environmental degradation as a market failure, or maybe, see, so I have given the example of paper production. The market is always not the one which will tell us so how much to produce or how much not to produce, particularly in case of environmental goods and services. So why is it so? Because the markets may not be functioning properly. Markets might be failing. So we need to have an understanding of this market failure concept. Of course, when you talk about market failure, we also should talk about market success. What does successful market means? Okay, so those things we have to look into. Of course, there are a number of issues out here. So when you talk about market failures, there are different reasons or sources of market failure. I talked about this externality issues, pollution. Okay? Externality might be one of the reasons for market failure. Sometimes sufficient number of markets are not available. Okay? The number of market is a very important thing. As of now, probably because of farmers' bill, you know about that, no? So, so farmers are protesting against the bills. At the same time, there are arguments. Some arguments are given that the mandis are not sufficiently available. Markets are not sufficiently available for transaction of agricultural commodities in the APMC mandi. In some of the states, the number is large. In some of the states, number is much lesser. So that way, in fact, sufficient number of markets are important for transacting goods and services. In the case of environmental goods and services, basically for many environmental goods, we find that markets are not sufficiently available. So they will not be in a position to carry out or maybe transact the goods in question. So in that case, it will be incomplete market. So market will be failing. So there are certain commodities, goods and services, which are of the nature of public goods. Now, when you say public goods, basically we are talking about some kind of goods which might be in the form of kind of, you can say, non-excludability kind of a thing. Okay, so something like this. Suppose you see, I have some waste in my house, and I am dumping it in my neighborhood, in the vicinity of my house. And in fact, when I do that, nobody can ask me not to do that, because I have every right to do that. Similarly, somebody else has the right not to do that, or maybe the right to do anything in the environment. Okay, so that type of thing might happen out there. So many of the environmental goods and services are like that, where the property of non-excludability is there. Non-excludability basically means I cannot exclude somebody from using the environmental resource. The river is there. I cannot say that you should not go and swim in the river. Okay, so provided unless and until I have the sole ownership right over the river. Yeah, if I have a pond in my plot of land, of course I can say that you should not go there and swim in the pond. So that can be prevented. But if I do not have access or rights over the river, then I cannot tell somebody that you should not use the river. So that type of a thing is also there. Non-excludability is one issue. Then we have this asymmetric information. Asymmetric information basically means the kind of differential information available in two parties which are transacting a particular good. It's something like this: a buyer and a seller. So you may purchase the product from a seller, but it might so happen that the seller might be having more information than you. So in that case, you might not be in a position to properly evaluate the goods in question. So in case of market, no successful market, we need to have a kind of, we should not have a symmetry of information. Both the parties should have equal amount of knowledge about the goods in question, goods or services in question. But sometimes it doesn't happen. So there is asymmetry information. In case of asymmetry of information, the markets may not function successfully. So that is another thing. So we'll try to find out what are the sources of market failure, and in which situation environments might be failing there. I mean, environments will not be performing well in terms of market performance is concerned. Then this Pigovian tax, property rights, and transaction costs, these things will also be taken for discussion in case of pollution. The second unit is for economics of natural resources, where we talk about different types of resources. Normally, we talk about renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Of course, there are different classification of environmental resources. Basically, natural resources we are talking about. Some of the classification is based on economic dimensions. Some will be in terms of geological uncertainties. Based on that, there are different terms which are used. Something like potential resources, kind of current reserves. So all those things will be there: potential reserves, current reserves, resource endowment. So these are some of the concepts which are being used. And also in case of these two different types of resources, renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So there are important dimensions out here, because in case of non-renewable resources, so these are not renewable. That means once it is exhausted, it is lost forever. You'll never get it back. So in that case, because I told you that our energy requirement, most of the energy requirement comes from kind of fossil fuels, kind of it in coal. So in that case, if fossil fuel is lost, then what is the way out? We are now talking about renewable resources, renewable energy resources, right? So we need to find out, so when we should switch over from non-renewable resources to renewable resources. And if we go for renewable resources, what are the management issues? What are the issues for non-renewable resources? How can we extend the life of non-renewable resources? Is there any technological solution to that? Or is there some kind of other institutional intervention which will help us in extending the life of non-renewable resources. Those things we need to understand. Also, here we have to talk about the property rights issues. See, so there are so many things. For example, the river, I talked about river. So who owns the river? To whom the river belongs? Okay, those type of things are there. So if the environment is not owned by anybody, then everybody might be willing to use the environmental resources. So in that case, will the environment be able to withstand the pressure of human civilization? So those things are there. You see, property rights is one very important issue. So we talk about private property rights regime, we talk about public property rights regime, state property rights regime. So all those things are there. Similarly, we talk about common property resources. Common property resources basically talks about the community ownership of the resources. So those things we need to find out. Another form is open access resources, where anybody and everybody can make use of the resource. In that case, maybe treasury of commons kind of a thing might happen. We'll try to understand this. One important contribution of economics to environment is the valuation techniques. You see, so we say that biodiversity is to be preserved. But what is the value of biodiversity? For example, if we talk about Gir National Forest, for example, Corbett National Park. So what is the value of Corbett National Park for the society at large? You see, some of the things, the value is important because you may have to preserve one environmental resource, right? If we have to preserve, the cost is there, no? So we have to find out the value of preservation. Why you should preserve? So there should be some value. So what is the value? We try to understand that. In some of the cases, so what happens for environmental resources? Some of the resources are marketable. For example, if you are thinking about a forest, some of the produce from the forest can be marketed. In the market, there will be demand and supply. So market price will tell the value of that item in the market. Okay, so that is possible out there. But all the things in the environment are not marketable. We are talking about biodiversity. Can you sell biodiversity in the market? Can you get a price for biodiversity in the market? You cannot. It's not possible, right? So amenity values, that amenity value that you might be getting by watching a wildlife, or maybe by going to a wetland, or maybe to a sea or to a river. So how will you estimate that? So can that be sold in the market? And okay, so you can think about the price for this. I think that is not. So that's why what happens. So there are two different types of values. One is the use value, and the other one is non-use values. So use value is the value of the resources when it is used. Normally, it might be the market price, which actually signifies the value of the resource. But in the other case, I think it will be non-use value. You may not be using as such. It might be available. For example, biodiversity, if it is available, it can contribute in some ways. Okay, so it might maintain the balance in the atmosphere. It might provide the required oxygen for the people. So it might actually absorb the carbon dioxide generated in the system. All those things are there actually, which are not directly marketable, which cannot be directly expressed in terms of price. So economics has provided some kind of indirect methods of valuing environmental amenities. So these are based on certain methods. One is the kind of stated preference method by of conducting some surveys, like contingent valuation method. Okay, so how much, suppose some people are asked how much you are willing to pay if the environmental quality is improved like this. It's a kind of hypothetical market situation. The people will be giving their opinion. Although it is not concrete thing, but it will give you some kind of values, ideas about how much people are valuing the environment or improvement in the environment. Same thing is with reference to some kind of environmental degradation. People feel that if there is environmental degradation, then there will be kind of a reduction in welfare of the society at large, and people have to be compensated. So these things can be found out by way of conducting some surveys, and this method is known as contingent valuation method. Similarly, we have another method, valuation system or valuation method, which is known as hedonic pricing method, and then another is travel cost method. Then we have environmental impact assessment. So there are certain ways of assessing the environmental impact of a human interaction or a human intervention in the environment. So fourth unit is basically pollution control. Many of you are much aware about this pollution control thing, because so you are student of technology, most of you have ideas how to kind of overcome the issues of pollution. One thing is for sure that pollution will always be there. You cannot go for kind of pollution-free world. That is not possible because we are talking about kind of development. Whenever development is there, economic activities have to take place, and whenever there are economic activities, some kind of pollution will be there. It will not be kind of zero pollution, but what you can say is that minimization of pollution. Okay, so if economic activities take place, air pollution will happen. Okay, land pollution will happen, water pollution will happen. So many things will be there, but so we have to try to find out ways of minimizing this pollution and their actually effect or impact on human society at large. Technological solutions will be one of the solutions. Another thing is by way of pollution, by way of government policy. I was talking about state policy at the very beginning of the class. So state policies will be very crucial out there, and there are very different methods. Probably you might be knowing that right now India has gone for kind of BS6 vehicles. So from BS4, we are having BS4 till 2020, beginning of 2020. Then 2020 April onwards, we have moved towards BS6. BS6 means it's a standard, Bharat Stage 6 standard. So we have actually kind of leapfrogged from BS4 to BS6. Why? Because it is considered to be more environment friendly. So pollution generated will be much, much lesser. That is the idea. So this is one way of controlling pollution. There are other ways of controlling pollution also. Okay, so there are different methods, command and control instruments. Market-based instruments are there. For example, taxes might be there. Kind of tradable permits might be there. So we also talk about liability laws. Okay, so these are different ways of public, or in a sense, you can say that the government intervention by way of which we try to go for reduction of pollution. Of course, overview of different acts or laws for pollution control in India, that is also there. But of course, this is not a theoretical thing practically, so we need to find out. And the last unit for this course is the trade-off between environment and development. Okay, so we talked about that actually. We need the development at the same time. We need a good quality environment. How to ensure that? Because there are many studies which have actually come up with some kind of relationship between environment and development. There is a trade-off. If you want more development, definitely more environmental degradation will take place. So people have come up with certain relationship. Environmental Kuznets curve is one such relationship, which talks about the kind of link between environment and development approach. So basically, it portrays a relationship between per capita income of a country and the environmental degradation. It might be in terms of pollution or maybe other carbon dioxide emission, something like that. So what happens out here? It's a kind of inverted U kind of a thing. So initially, when development activities gear up, then environmental quality gets degraded. So it will continue happening like that, and it will reach a maximum point. So after that maximum point, environmental quality starts improving. So partly because of the fact that people become much aware about the negative impact of environmental kind of issues out there, and people want to go for kind of better technology. And at the same time, the government also intervenes by way of policies, maybe pricing and other things. I talked about just the BS4 kind of a thing, BS6 kind of a standard that the government has initiated. So these type of standards will ensure that environmental quality improving. But at the beginning, when development activities start happening in a large scale, the environmental quality gets a beating. So that is what environmental Kuznets curve is. Many a time we talk about poverty to be at the root of environmental degradation. Whether that is true or not, we try to understand that. And the another big thing that I talked about was sustainable development. So what sustainable development? What is the concept? What are the indicators? Why sustainable development is important? So those things we need to understand, and we have included them. At the same time, we have also included the kind of accounting of sustainable development, in a sense, you can say so. For example, there are certain methods like green GDP we talk about. So this is nothing but environmentally adjusted gross domestic product. So this is basically GDP is the substitute for income. Similarly, we have another system which is known as Integrated Environmental and Economic Accounting, which is SEA, System of Integrated Environmental and Economic Accounting. So these are the things which will be there in 5th unit. And for all these things, I have tried to incorporate. In fact, I normally consult a number of books. One book is Introduction to Environmental Economics by Henley, Sugren, and White. So this is a different book from the book in serial number 3. The third book actually is same set of authors. So they have come up with the second edition of Environmental Economics in Theory and Practice. That's a better read. Of course, we have all the books. Even the Kulstad book is available in the library. But getting an ebook has become a little bit tough. I'm trying. If it is available, then I will share with you. Otherwise, if anyone of you can find out the ebook of these authors, then try to have it and try to share with your colleagues. Additionally, you see, the Henley's book will be important for many units. Valuation is very properly discussed out here. Even this market failure things are discussed in detail here in this. So you can have a better idea about these issues from these books. Externalities and public goods. So these can be discussed or maybe studied from other books as well. For example, many microeconomics books have this externalities, public goods things. I'll try to give you some materials on that. Additionally, for natural resource unit, there is a very good book which is by Tittenberg, Environmental and Natural Resource Economics. Of course, I didn't find any ebook for this as well. So that was another issue actually. This is a very good book. I'll try to share some of the materials with you. So this will give you the understanding of the natural resource economics that we are talking about in the, I think, second unit. And additionally, there is another book which I normally follow. It's an edited volume, Environmental Economics by Oxford University Press. It was actually edited by Uluganathan Sankar, an Indian environmental economist of Madras School of Economics. So these are mostly the books. Additionally, there will be some articles which I can share with you. And of course, yeah, right now, since we'll be having only online classes, it will be good if we can have the ebooks. I'll try. This is regarding the course. And another thing is the most important thing is your course evaluation. Okay. Regarding the course evaluation part, as you can see, so far we have been following a system of course evaluation of continuous course evaluation in essence, you can say. So continuous in essence, we can have two different types of system in place. One system in which we can have a number of quizzes, since it will be 100 marks evaluation, So then probably we can think about having around maximum of 5 quizzes. Actually, what we can have, if we have a continuous quizzes, we can conduct 6 or 7 quizzes, of which the 5 best can be considered for your grades. That is one way of doing it. Of course, one important aspect for me will be your attendance in the class. We'll be expecting you to be in the class. So in that sense, okay, so probably it will be better if you are there in the class. And for that, some weightage will be given for your attendance in the class. That will be there. Okay. So some marks, maybe 5 marks or 10 marks. I'll decide on that. So that is one. Additionally, another option might be, so we can have a few quizzes, maybe around 70 marks or something like that. So for that again, so maybe around 6 quizzes might be there. Additionally, there might be an in-semester type of a thing. So wherein maybe around 25 marks or maybe 30 marks will be allotted for the in-semester. So which will be uh, so which you have to appear, and in fact ultimately you will be evaluated based on both the quizzes as well as your in-semester examination. Of course, if it is in-semester examination, then probably will not be in a position to give you a lot of time for attending this. So we'll have to take a call on these two, maybe within next 1 week or something like that. So I will be finalizing this evaluation procedure. As of now, I am giving both these options. One option is that continuous quizzes, maybe around maximum of 5, will be taken into account for giving grades. But the issue is, in case of quizzes, so you need to have mostly the objective questions. That is good in a sense, but at the same time, some kind of understanding of the issues, that is comprehension, is also important. For that, maybe we can have kind of one in-semester examination kind of a thing. So maybe of 3 hours or something like that. So within 3 hours, you have to finish it, and then you have to upload the answers. So that might also be taken into account. So these are the two options I have kept as of now. Yeah, if you have any issue, anything to discuss, you are most welcome. We have around 4 minutes time. Please feel free if you have any issue. Can you hear me or not?
Yes, sir. Sir, can we have both of options like 50-50?
It will not be 50-50. I will not believe in that 50-50 thing. It will not be 50-50. So what I'll do, I may have a few quizzes. The quiz weightage might be around 70% or something like that. And the rest 25 or maybe 30% weightage might be from the end semester examination. Of course, around 5% weightage I might give for attendance as well.
Okay. So that is fine.
Yeah, I'm not giving 50-50 because sometimes there are problems as well. In the case of end semester, it's a kind of bigger exam. No, so even if it is bigger exam, so it may not have so much of weightage. 50% weightage is too much actually. If somebody does very badly in the examination, his performance will be affected like anything. So that's why it is technically not correct to think about such a big examination, right? That is the idea.
So, sir, so quizzes will be objective and the end sem will be subjective. Is it?
Quizzes, yeah, you see, you cannot have a kind of very big quiz, right? So because we have to conduct quiz in Microsoft Forms only, or maybe Google Form, whatever that may be, right? So in that case, maybe at the most you can have short questions answers, short answers kind of questions you can have there, but you cannot have kind of relatively longer questions out there, longer answers. It is not possible. So in that case, mostly it might may be objective, but at the same time, some short answers might also be written out there. That is also possible, right? And the fact is that the number of students is a little bit large. No? As of now, around 77 students I have seen. So they have registered. So we'll wait for some more days actually till the time this change of electives is allowed, and after that we'll be able to find out how many students will finally be there in the course. But anyhow, any number beyond 50 is a large number, and in fact, doing everything through online mode becomes a little bit tricky out here. So that's why we have to be a little bit cautious regarding the mode of evaluation. Could you get it? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
It's okay then. If anyone is left out from the groups, please let me know, because I have tried to incorporate all of your name, but even then sometimes it might okay, because the number is large and you have to do it one by one, so that's why it takes a lot of time. If anyone is left out from the group, please let me know so that he or she can be included in the group. It's okay. We'll meet tomorrow again same time at 12 o'clock. Till then, let me say thank you, and we'll meet again. Thank you very much.